I think the biggest issue we really have is a lack of small group teaching within the school, so I think we really need to try and get to grips with what the problem is here and why our school doesn't have small group teaching. I think many of the problems in the past have been to do with PhD students having taught when there were previously a tutorial system within the school. I think there does tend to be quite a divide. Some module conveners are very pro small group teaching, some aren't. And so if I was school president, the way I would approach it is to go and speak to those module conveners that were pro small group teaching to see if we could get a pilot of that within modules.
From what I've managed to pick up so far, a couple of the biggest issues would be feedback, and a lot of people seem quite unhappy with the rate at which feedback is given back on assignments and the degree to which they're getting it. For instance, we had a case earlier this semester where we had a feedback lecture about a week before we had even our marks or reports back, which isn't of the greatest help. There have been some cases with, I think, first year and third year modules where the feedback hasn't come in to about 2 weeks later than it's due, and it adds stress to people and worry, and it's just generally not great for them. The other one that I found was especially in the sub-honours years where the marking criteria and what's actually expected of you in reports and assignments aren't greatly explained early enough on, and it means that because a lot of what people do is all part of the continuous assessment and they do get marked on it, that by the time they're getting feedback on what they're doing wrong, they've lost a significant amount of marks, and to me that's not only is it not fair, but it's just generally bad practice and does need to be addressed quite quickly.
I think the big issues can be divided into lecture attendance and the practical lab work. I think a lot of the modules have early morning, like 9 and 10 AM lectures with very low attendance. It's just difficult getting students to go to something at 9 AM, even midweek when we're not hungover. And obviously lecture attendance is linked to grades, so if we just increase attendance somehow, it'd be a very good way to increase results.
All right.
And then also a lot of practicals I don't think are great for teaching skills. Rather than being taught how to do a skill and practicing it with feedback, you just often assess on your first try, which I don't think is great. And in the first couple of years, many techniques are only done once or twice. And if you go months between using a microscope, you're not going to remember how to set it up properly. I never can. Yeah, so that's it.
I think the SSCC meeting certainly highlighted feedback to be a big issue within the school. If I was elected, I would tackle this by holding a workshop for interested students and staff where we can discuss and hopefully standardise written feedback and return times. I think another big issue is probably computer suite availability and software availability. I would like to see the statistics programme available in all university computers. I think this would be really helpful because there's not only our school that uses it, it's used quite widely across the university. And finally, library resources is definitely another issue. I would badger staff to ensure that we have adequate copies of core textbooks and access to scientific papers.
At the moment, I think one of the biggest issues is communication. I think that it's important that we improve communication between staff and students, and also within students themselves. The SSCC provides a really good means of doing this, but I think that we need to spread the information from the SSCC out to all the students, because I feel that people don't actually know what goes on within the meetings. So I think we need to find a way of spreading that information and getting people more involved in seeing how the changes are being implemented. I also think it's important that small group teaching is improved. I think that tutorials would be a really good idea, and I know there's ways that they are being implemented, and I think it's important that these are implemented in the right way so that we can see results from them. I also think that it's important that students are provided with more study space and more computer resources, and also the programs that they actually need to study. Because I know we share loads of programs with other schools, so there's no reason why we shouldn't have them throughout the university.
Communication between the student body and the higher academic policies. There seems to be quite a lot of ignorance about what the school president forum is, and even small things like the class rep system. People don't understand how powerful a tool that can be.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest issues that are affecting us are communication between the faculty, the policymakers and the students. And if you're the school president, you're in a very unique situation that you know the voice of the student body because you're part of it, and you have the ability to at least inform, if not affect the policymakers. So communication, I think almost anything can be solved by talking. And if you're the school president, you can shout just a little bit louder than Mr. and Mrs. normal student.